My guest today is Ms. Amber Case, who is the founder and research director of the Calm Technology Institute that aims to establish partnerships with companies to promote and integrate the principles of calm tech into their current and future product lines. Welcome, Amber.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. We want to talk about your book, Calm Technology: Principles and Patterns for Non-Intrusive Design. Yeah, I always been interested about this, Amber. So before you get to your book, just to put my bias on the table, I got 300 smart devices in my home and 1,500 entities, as they call it. Some of them are reporting data, some of them are taking in data. How do I manage 1,500 entities? Since I've been sort of playing around with an application called Home Assistant. I don't know if you have seen this, and it has been pretty good actually. I could sort of integrate everything into a single page, and I could see all my different rooms in the house, temperature, humidity, probability of mold forming, all sorts of things. And I don't have to do anything about it because I can just sort of watch it on a single page. So this has some relevance for what you're talking about here. So I want to go into the first chapter, designing for the next 15 billion devices. I got only 300 of them. Um, and you say here, we have gone from many people to one computer. That's how I grew up. We had a mainframe, IBM 370, and I was doing Fortran programming. This was before you were born, I would imagine. To many computers per person. Yeah. So right now I have many computers. The next wave of computing will make demands on us in terms of privacy, security, bandwidth, and attention. You see here, we no longer design technology in the way that we design for desktops. We need to think about how we will design for the next 50 billion devices. 50 billion might be underestimated, Amber, I think. So we can help make the future more reasonable by writing efficient code, using lower level languages for mission critical systems, and creating more local networks, consider distributed and individual computing, and design with interoperability in mind. Yeah. So this is an important issue for humans, perhaps not for artificial intelligence and computers, but for humans, this is is an important issue, right? What do you think?
Yes. So many things you brought up here.
Yeah,
First off, you have many devices and sensors in your home,
yeah,
and you have Home Assistant, which you're trying out, and you're
yes,
possibly putting everything into a page that you can see everything on. And
yes,
then let me give you a little bit of a history about the book and why I wrote it.
yeah.
So I grew up in a multi-generational mathematician engineering family. So
Those
um,
guys, I'll run away from them if you can. Yes. Sorry.
um, so my grandpa was the head of mathematics at the University of Utah. He was
Yeah,
working on all sorts of different new computing infrastructure.
yeah,
I think he worked on a PDP-8, so it was one of those
yes,
large machines
yes,
that many people shared one computer.
yeah,
And my dad worked on voice concatenation systems and automated directory systems.
mm,
And he and my mom then later worked at engineering position at a television station where they put TV on the air, and then that was automated. And my dad automated that, and my
mhm,
mom's job was automated out of existence. And at home, my dad always wanted the most expensive speakers and the most expensive microphones and the most expensive technology. And so he either bought it, and if he couldn't buy it, he would build it. So we had
yes,
custom speakers, we had home automation systems everywhere, but he built it for, off the shelf components, $20-$30, and we'd have an intercom system. I grew up with a voice activated light where I could turn it on and off with my, and it was terrible. The
I
things
hope
that
my
he
daughter's
built.
not listening to this episode. I'm exactly like your dad. I'm an automation nut, you know. I love automating things. Yeah,
Well, it's funny because a lot of times when you automate, it's not necessarily automated. It's something that you have to manage even more.
that's right. That's
And
right. Yeah,
so the question is, how do you automate well and how do you
yeah,
automate poorly? And what's the difference between being on the forefront and playing with a bunch of toys and then
yeah,
somebody having to buy your house and saying, "Oh gosh, how do I deal with all of these toys? Can I transfer my user account over here?" And what
yeah,
happens if a guest comes to your home? How do they know what you called the lights in the downstairs guest bedroom? Do they say, "Alexa, tell me what the lights are called"? The first thing I do when I go into
yeah,
anyone's home is I say, "Hey,
yeah.
Alexa, buy a banjo."
Yes,
And it
yes.
just adds a banjo to their shopping cart. And they say, "There's a banjo in my shopping cart. Where did it
Yeah,
come from?" And I said, "You have excellent home security." Um, and mostly it's about looking at how much attention something takes to
yeah,
get the job done, right? So
yeah,
if you have the voice activated light, like I had when I was growing up, there's a sensitivity level. So if I turn the sensitivity level up, because I was reading in bed and I wanted to say, "Voice commander, lights off," that's how you said it, um, then
yeah,
then it would be great. I could whisper it because I didn't want to wake up my parents.
yeah,
But if I was playing a loud song or a loud truck drove by, it would automatically trigger the light and all the lights in my room would turn on.
yeah,
So for my last name being Case, I feel like I'm the edge case person. I run into every edge case possible.
yeah.
I should be in QA. Um, and in a sense I am, but it's, if you have 300 devices, if you have 300 pieces of information streams,
Hmm,
what part of it is the thing that you're really optimizing for? What is the thing that you really are trying to make meaning from? And what's
hmm.
actually the interesting information? For instance, if you know that in your region there are usually high levels of radon, then you want that whole panel to say radon,
Yeah,
or you want that to automatically activate, your radon abatement system. If you know that there's going to be, a monsoon or something coming in, there's going to be high levels of
yeah,
humidity, then maybe you want to run the dehumidifier and you want either a notification that that dehumidifier fire
yeah,
bucket is full, or you want to drain that drains that, or you want to know when there's going to be mold or it's too dry and you're going to get sick. It's these predictive things. But if we
yeah,
go back to automation, there's a paper that came out. It's the Dilger paper, and it's called the decentralized autonomous organization in the home. Now,
yeah,
this paper was all about how do you make a home that maintains itself. So the idea of household economics comes, it's about, you know, home economics is a real thing, right? You're managing inputs and outputs, and
yeah,
most of us have systems in our house that are readers, they're signals, right? But
yeah,
we don't have actuators. We don't say, "Hey, there's a forest fire coming in on this map, and we've traced a map polygon every 10 minutes, and then we're going to uh, close down the windows, make sure that there's low CO2 in the house, and
hmm.
then reduce the particulate PM 2.5 and PM 1 and PM 10 content in the house. And then we're going to display in the little panel green, all clear," right? So you
So
know you're breathing.
yeah, so I call it sort of exception based management, and we do that in organizations too. I was in a large pharmaceutical company.
Mm,
We were investing $5 billion per year into R&D programs. If you get caught in the details, we need to hire like 10,000 people, you know.
yeah.
And so what we wanted to know is what might be wrong, what might be sort of pushing toward the threshold of being wrong. And so I think that's the principle that you're talking about here, which is, yeah, so I got 300 devices and 1,500 entities. If I run after them every day, I think I'm going to lose my mind, right? So um, it is quite important to to reduce the bandwidth of your
Attention. Yes.
engagement with technology, right? That's sort of your theme, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So let me give you a couple of examples.
Yeah.
I went to so I had a startup uh, before writing this book. We were the first location-based system SDK and API that you could use for iPhone and Android. We made the first use of the GPS chip on that phone. So
Yeah.
we were really at the cutting edge of like what kind of servers you needed and what you could do to get the throughput that we needed. So we were looking for really good server providers around town because it was still cheaper to do it on-prem than in the cloud. And in our case, it still was. And so
Mm.
we visited the best uptime data center. And it was one
Yeah.
full block of downtown Portland, Oregon, the local one. And we went over to interview one of the managers. And we walk in and it's this mahogany office with some duck hunting dogs and oil paintings of ducks and like Springer Spaniels.
Mm.
And this guy's sitting there in his armchair reading a duck hunting magazine. And I said, "Is this the server facility?" He said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And I said, "Well, I don't see any servers, I don't hear any servers." And he opened up one of the doors and screaming, rows and rows and rows of servers. The entire floor was servers.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And he was hosting incredibly important clients. And I said, "So how often do you go in there?" And he said, "Well, I haven't gone in there for a couple weeks."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, how does that work?" And he said, "Well, I have a system of sensors and I have this little panel right
Yeah.
here." And he had the smallest little panel and
Yes.
it said, it just has green on it. He says,
It
"If it's
just it
green, I
just
don't have to
lights
check."
up. It just lights up
It
when there's a
just,
problem. Yeah.
it lights, it's always lit, but it has green, yellow, or red. If
Yeah.
it's yellow, he opens the door and he looks down the server aisle row, and there
Yeah.
will be a light above the row where the server might have an issue or will have an issue in the future. And
Yeah.
then he walks down to check it out. And if it's red, it's down, but he said it hasn't turned red in years. And for me, that was really important because some of the best automators that I've
Mm.
known,
Mm.
they take all the information and they put it into, in Star Trek, you have a red alert and
Mhm.
everybody understands it at the same time. But he
Yeah.
was able to sit there and at the corner of his eye, if that state changed at
Yeah.
all, it would just be like being a pilot and having the light turn on only when something's wrong, as you said.
Yeah.
But how he managed that information and compressed it
Yeah.
was, what is the indicator that happens before the server goes down or before the server is going to go down? How do
Yeah.
I route that into a numeric? And then how do I have that numeric threshold change the
Mm.
color on this panel? Then how do I have a backup panel just in case that one fails? And then how do I get that reported in different ways to the server techs? So he
E-
had very
Yeah.
few people. And so for me, that was really, really important because it's just taking that information
Yeah.
and putting an icon. You could have a little panel and you could have icons of, faucets, humidity, all
Yeah.
of that, and you could just have colors. And if you look at your panel across the room, you
Mm.
can get a sense of your home health or your server health or anything like that. And then if you want to go closer, you can look at which one is yellow or which one is red, and then you go to that place and then you check it out.
It sort of assumes that you need a human to make a decision. So an alternative view would be, yeah, we can program all of this into the server. So we don't need to watch what's happening. Um, the agent, they call it an AI agent nowadays. I think I don't know what that means, but the agent could make a decision. So if you want to sort of move humans away from all these technology processes, we can do that. I mean, we have technology now to do that. I was
And it's
trying that
it's
in the early
mind
90s.
bendingly frustrating, and the
Yeah.
failures are so horrendous, and it's costing people a lot of money. So the gotcha about calm technology is that
Yeah.
it's actually less annoying if there's a human in the loop than if you try to automate the whole process, because you need to have the intelligence live in the human mind so that when
Yeah.
something does go wrong, when you fix it, it's a much shorter time frame.
Yeah.
So if you have a crazy system that then no one knows how to maintain or do anything with,
Yeah.
then you've got a much harder problem on your hands if you're relying on a very, very expensive to train data center that
Mm.
runs on much more energy. You can feed someone an apple and
Mm.
train them up. They've paid for their own training through college. They paid for their own, their mom and dad have paid for their training, and they can come in and do the thing.
Yeah, I'm not
The
sure about that. So on a home assistant, for instance, I have 100 automations, and my goal is that I don't have to ever look at anything. It's just one page, but I don't even want to look at one page in the future. I want the machines to take care of everything. And I think we can get there. You disagree.
well, I think we've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
It's really about people not wanting to do the things that are boring. And regardless of whether it's an agent or a servant or a dog, humans have
Mm.
always worked with systems alongside them to get things done, right? Like if you're in a castle, you have all the servants in the downstairs making all of the things because it's annoying. You have a turn spit dog that's running 12 hours a day turning the meat, you know, and
Yeah.
and the automation happened so none of those dogs had to turn that spit. But from a historical perspective, the term AI isn't even a real term. It
Mm.
was created by John McCarthy in 1955 so that him and his collection of friends would not have to deal with Norbert Wiener, the so-called father of cybernetics, barging
Mm.
into all their meetings and saying, well, it's cybernetics. And so they created the AI summer conference at
Mm.
Dartmouth in 1956, where they said, we can make a substitute for human thinking, and we're going to call it AI. And that's where the press went crazy about it.
Mm.
For all the cyberneticists in the past, it was always you're doing something in a system with other things. So no
Yeah.
matter what, you can automate all you want, but there's still some point where a human has to intervene because that hasn't been automated yet.
Right.
So
So it's a lot of the weakest point in the chain question. So suppose I have all the technology in the world and I have introduced a human in the middle, um, like our aircraft. What is it called? The um,
aircraft
air traffic
control,
controllers.
which
Yeah.
which is uses a system from the 1970s, which is
Yes. Yes.
extremely straightforward, so that they can actually make a decision without having to click
Yeah.
through 20 panels in order to do
Yes.
something. Yeah.
But the humans, I would argue, tend to be the weakest link in the technology chain because humans are highly unpredictable. So you take a, I don't know, a Boeing or an Airbus aircraft, they're pretty intelligent. Most of the crashes that we have had so far has been humans pulling on things they don't seem to understand. If you just let the aircraft do its work, they would not have crashed. So humans tend to be the the worst part of this process. What do you think?
I think that that's a red herring of an argument entirely. And I don't participate in such philosophies because that's saying that all humans are a certain way when they aren't,
Yeah.
right? That's saying like here's a very, very well trained pediatric oncologist, and they're able to do something that no system has been trained to do. Now they might have a terrible bedside manner, but they are very good at doing that thing. Whereas
Yeah.
you have another person who's a poorly trained, um, you know, let's say, assistant, and they hand that doctor the wrong tool, and the doctor's pissed off. Stupid
Yeah.
human, but the thing
Sometimes
is
the
that
doctor just uses it because she was given that.
there's bigger issues at hand, right?
Myriad of
With
issues.
you
Yeah.
have the Max crash, the Boeing Max crash, which was
Yeah.
about optimization issues, right? The
Yeah.
company was forced to make a certain amount of money, and so they made decisions. If a machine was put in that same role, it would make an even more terse decision of let's
Hmm.
optimize everything.
I
But when
see.
somebody goes on a plane, all of the little tiny things, it's the little tiny things of the flight attendant being doofy and saying a joke, and the passenger next to them, having a
Yeah.
fluffy dog, or somebody else giving them a snack, or, you know, that little tiny kindness that allows
Hmm.
people not to shoot themselves when they're flying on a plane. We have robotic care in Japanese hospitals, but it looks like a
Yeah.
giant bear that it can lift people up and down. But people
The
would much rather
Japanese,
be
the Japanese can do that. I think the Americans
because
will have great difficulty doing that. Yeah.
yes, because there's completely different understandings of society, right? So in Japan, it
Yes.
became very, very, very expensive to hire people.
Yeah.
So automation was not a fetish like it is in the United States, where
Yes.
you do this if you have excess amount of time and you want to make things more complicated for yourself in
It's
the
almost a
future.
way of life. Way of life in Japan. Yeah.
It was a necessity, right?
Yeah.
And there's this idea of Shintoism in which everything has spirits. And so all the automation has some funny spirit in it, right? You
Hmm.
have, why are there vending machines in Japan? Because you can't hire a service worker. You're going to put the vending machine outside. Why can you do your taxes at the 7-Eleven convenience store? Because it's much better
Yeah.
than having an entire other footprint, right? So
Yeah.
some of this automation is a bit of a parlor trick. Some of
Yeah.
it is not built well.
Yeah.
And if you have, and it's really about who builds it, right? If someone who is really, really clever and understands the least amount in order to get the job done, then, and so I've found that people whose
Yeah.
parents are contractors, like building contractors,
Yeah.
when they make software, they do a really good job because they grew up in a constrained environment.
Right.
And when you have people assume that there's unlimited resources, so
Mhm.
some humans are really annoying and some systems are really, really annoying, and many
Yeah.
systems are, so there's a unlimited supply of annoyance on both sides, and then there's
Yeah.
a very small amount of incredibly good software and hardware and
Yeah.
incredibly good humans and good systems. And
Mm.
so, you can ask GPT and Claude, tell you're blue in the face about some legal thing, and it will
Mm.
give you something that's like a paralegal, even if it becomes, the best expert. But
Yeah.
who's going to represent you in court? There's still how is that AI with its flatline voice going to convince the jury? Well,
Mhm.
it might convince the jury as a battle of the AIs, but there's it's these hard arguments to make because it's really about the history of automation and this idea that wouldn't it be great? Let's say everything in your house was completely automated. What would you do then?
Yeah.
You know, let's
But
say you
in
solved it. Let's say you solved it all.
the future, the jury could be AI, and so we cannot assume anything. So I want to go into second chapter of your book, Principles of Calm Technology. So let's talk about calm technology. So you say here, designing calm technology requires that we respect human attention for the valuable commodity it is, and we make our technology so reliable that we don't have to expend cognitive energy on its base functioning, and that we always take into account the context in which it's used. These ideas are familiar in human-centered design, social design, and anthropology. Yeah, so I'm quite attracted to this idea. So technology for me should be in the background. Any technology that sort of goes into the background is a beautiful technology. Um, I don't have it yet. I have, like I said, 300 devices, and some of them it's like I have to go in and you go to this router and that router. That is That's crazy. I mean, I want my devices to be completely in the background. They don't call me, they don't let me know they exist. I just want them to be completely in the background, right? So we are not there, but I think we are probably tending there. You think? No?
I argue that we've been there for years. We've been there for at least 100 years. Um,
Mm.
because in your house you have electricity, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And if you're not an electrician and you open up that wall, you could get pretty hurt, right?
yeah.
But you don't need to be an electrician to use electricity. Do you notice the light switches on your wall right now?
Well, I have some smart light switches. It's a little bit of a different thing, but yeah, I know what you
But
mean. Yeah,
in general, you don't
yeah,
go into a room and say, "Wow, the light switches," unless it's an ornate thing. Do you notice the chair you're sitting in right now?
yeah.
What about the shoes that you're wearing?
I'm
I
not wearing
mean,
any shoes, but yeah,
yeah, me neither. So, the,
yeah,
the most important thing for me is that to give people this notion that there are already extremely well designed technologies like
yeah,
a dishwasher, a washing machine, a sink, a quiet
yeah,
fridge, ideally, and that
yeah,
these things actually are automations that we've lived alongside for almost a century, yet we don't notice them. And the way that they've been designed versus the way that most modern electronics have been designed, like Wi-Fi, is very
yeah.
different. Wi-Fi goes out all the time, but
Mm,
electricity is a big event if it goes out. It's not
mm,
supposed to go out. Water
mm,
is definitely not supposed to go out. That's the biggest one because these are things we rely on. If you're
mm,
wearing a pair of eyeglasses, you focus on the view and not the glasses.
mm,
That's a piece of technology. Glass is an incredible piece of technology. Looking out a window, if the
mm.
window's clean enough, you don't notice it as much. But there's a couple different notions here that I think are really important. If a technology is pass through, in that your consciousness passes through it when you use it, you focus
Yeah,
on the task and not the tool. So
yeah,
it takes a while to learn how to ride a bicycle, but once you learn it, you never have to learn it again. You can get on a bike 20 years later and fumble around for a minute, but you're able to
yeah.
bike. And the most important about that part about that is that bicycle is actually an incredibly advanced, really useful piece of technology, along with like a phone or not a phone, but like an old phone, a
Yeah.
violin, any of these things, is that you learn it once. Even with a car, it's incredibly complicated, and we trust people who are failable to drive around at really high speeds in
Mm,
cars, which is quite
yeah,
incredible. And so my vision of technology is to be more like that. Every time I open up Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Google Hangouts, they've moved the buttons around. That means that the technology is not good at me. Doesn't mean I'm not good at tech. Humans are incredibly good at technology. That's what we do. We've built tools for millions of years. We're not good at the technology right now because it's quite bad. We have
yes.
solved so many of these issues. Like if you click a button, you should be able to, here's the meeting, here's the record
Yeah.
button, and it's all totally different. Cars are
Mm,
changing from being something that you don't have to look at when you're using
yeah.
to having to look at a touchscreen for all the regular buttons, and we think that that's high tech. There's really good high tech stuff in cars. For instance, that little light that turns on in your
Mm.
wind mirror that tells you when someone's in your blind spot, automatic braking. These are the behind the scenes issues in the car that actually are the calm tech. All the
So
stuff in your face is not actually calm.
yeah, let me go on a tangent a little bit, Amber. So there's an MIT study that came out recently that said your brain on LLM looks significantly different from your natural brain. It's like your brain on drugs. And so there is an issue if you keep everything sort of within expected realms, in some ways. Um, so I turn on Waze when I drive my car.
Yeah,
Um, I come in and I have my 300 devices talking to me.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if that is actually a good thing, you know. So let me post this to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to that, I really like what the Greeks said about time. They had these two words for time. They had chronos time and kairos time. And
Mm,
chronos time is that kind of, I have a meeting from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's very industrial time. You want that in a factory. You want reliable results. But
mm,
kairos time is that human time that you remember when you're watching a sunset and you're just there, or you're holding a loved one's hands for the first time, or you're watching a child's steps for the first time. These
yeah.
are these human moments that you remember on your deathbed. Those are the really important things in life. And I think a lot of tech and how it's created and how we interact with it right now is quite a bad roommate, and it keeps forcing us into Chronos time instead of Kairos time.
Mm,
And I think that if we really think about what meaning is, so much of this goes away.
yeah.
And if we offload that to other bots, we're actually having our lives lived by some other artificial entity, and we're not really living.
Yeah.
And so when you said an AI jury, it was like, so, here's 8 people, and we're going to make an LLM that represents these people off the street. But no one in that jury, none of those lawyers are learning really what it means on some of these cases, because a lot of these are frontier cases. It's about,
Mm,
I read a cyber law textbook because I would go study at the law library when I was in college doing anthropology, and I wanted to know what were the frontier
mm,
cases in cyber law. And so many of them, you're having people discuss, and you're having a jury discuss, and you're having a judge discuss, because it's unprecedented. If you want something that's an average of how everybody thinks,
yeah.
LLMs are quite good, but and I use them to get a mediocre thing that then I can have a very expensive lawyer spend a little bit of time
Mhm,
to get into better shape. But it
mm,
never replaces the almost philosophical discussion that I can have with a person that has 80 years of knowledge in that
yeah.
specific shape, because I can't get to that.
So
And we
I'm
we like to
actually,
say that at some point, one day we'll have everything in that system, and then and it's like, well, what are we living for if
yeah.
everything's just there? Can it love for us? Can it bake a cake for us? Do we want to send it to a children's birthday party on our stead because we're too busy? Is it should we just, remove ourselves from the equation? What is
I'm
meaning?
actually quite attracted to an LLM, an AI based jury, because LLMs are very good at condensing history, and humans are historically based entities. We have our biases, we have our knowledge. It's all history based. And if I can create a jury that doesn't have any sort of crazy guy or girl in there, I would be much happier, because it is a historic. I mean, it's not like these guys are inventing physics or chemistry or biology. These guys are
However,
these guys
when you
meaning, in the
with
jury, they're
yes,
just using their biases to say yes or no.
but you
Yeah, I
have a
can definitely create an
representation.
AI. Yeah,
It sounds
but
great. It sounds great to just get one company in there that has a bunch of programmers that don't represent any regular people, have a
they're
complete
no
monopoly
programmers.
over that.
This
And
is like,
AI is not its own entity. It's a system of all of the stuff that's been online, trained by programmers.
yeah.
So when you look at the bias, everything has a bias. The whole point of the jury is to
So
have
do
a bunch of
humans,
different
right?
random biases from
So
a
do
random
humans.
selection of people.
And
Correct. But when you,
humans are biased too.
yes, but you want to have enough of them from a real background
Well, you
versus
have
one
only
single
eight of them.
bias.
You have only eight of them. Yeah.
And you
I mean,
have
you
and you
cannot get an
have
infinite
and you
number
have
of
one
humans.
company that's biased. So you have one company that represents a simulated bias of 8 biases. This
Yeah.
this this goes into quite deep philosophy, and I'm not the right person to answer it. And I could go, I was a I was a fellow at Harvard Law School, and I think it would be very interesting to bring up with people. I know that it would be, we could write a bunch of science fiction about it first to test it out, and we could see what it actually did. But the people that have been using these types of systems have gotten into quite a bit of trouble, because how do you debias a system? Um, and what is bias? And people don't ask that question. They just automatically assume that, you have to test it, right? It's like electricity. It's extremely dangerous. So
Yeah.
how would you test it? You test it on historical cases and see what it said. You'd go through that for a long time, and you have humans involved, and the person whose life or death sentence is going to be decided with this is no longer looking to anybody's eyes. It's just, here's the program. At the worst
But
case, we get something and then there's so many Star Trek episodes that talk about this, a bug in the system, and we have, it's also, if there's too many tokens being requested that LLM at that time, then it's going to have degraded results. So you'd have to make sure that you had access to enough tokens to have the highest rate of non-bias, because those systems actually go towards bias when too many tokens have been requested in that session.
no, it's not a
So
technology. It's not a technology question. Humans are the most biased systems I have ever encountered. I have never encountered a technology that is worse than humans. So if you say
I can give you so
um,
many
I, I
counterexamples of
I put
that.
8 or 9 people in a jury and they're going to make the right decision, I would bet against that, because they're looking at skin color, they're looking at the color of your hair, they're looking at your facial expressions, and they make truly biased decisions.
And so does the
This is
LLM,
where
because
we
it
are. Yeah,
it
yeah,
it understands
yeah,
how what people put in too. So
yeah.
because it's made of human content, it's trained on human content, and however much bias you try to take out of it, it actually, if you go off
Hmm.
and read some of this material, it's quite nasty. So but I don't want to go too far into that direction. Although it's fun and spicy to talk about, um, it's just, for me, it's very interesting to talk about building systems like civil engineering, right? You build a bridge and you say, what are the constraints? And you actually overbuild the bridge as much as you can, because you want to say, oh, it will work up to 50 degrees centigrade. It will work for this wind condition, and if it gets up above this point, close the bridge. It's unsafe for cars. But it's
Hmm.
not, here's male or female or this race or whatever can go on this bridge. It's people and cars can go on this bridge, and here's the payload. And then
Yeah.
it's over engineered, because all the little contractors down the chain are going to take a chunk, and actually it's not going to be as strong as it could. But in the beginning of most engineering programs, the video that you watch is a video of a bridge collapsing and cars falling off it.
Hmm.
And it's
So,
the
so you
idea of
think
the
that they're
moral.
generally over designed? Is that your point, or
They're supposed to be over designed and redundant,
yeah?
because in engineering, which most people don't get to actually learn, actual engineering, not arbitrary engineering, not going
Hmm.
on Stack Overflow and getting something, is how does a system work when it fails? How does a system work under conditions that aren't so good, with
Hmm.
people that aren't so great in it, because we're not going to solve that problem? And how do you make people successful in that type of system, whether that's a bike or a car or a bridge or a
Hmm.
piece of software? And many systems, you have to be caffeinated, awake, and very smart to use. But people want to be able to use these systems when they're lazy. They want a button that's big enough that they don't have to turn on the flashlight on their phone to see the button to turn off the television. They,
Hmm.
so the main thing for me is that when we do so much on visual culture and what
Yeah.
we see, and when we make the world like a desktop computer where you have to focus all of your attention to it, we forget that your hands have eyes too. And most traditional tools that we've worked alongside have like physical buttons and dials and knobs and ridges, all these things, so that, like a printer copy machine, you can have a conversation with someone while you make a copy. Not that we need to use those anymore, but the idea is that these machines allow you to do something while you're doing something else. Why can you talk to someone in your car while glancing at the driving directions, while listening to music, all while driving a very, very heavy machine that could kill someone? And you're able to do that with all your attention. And you
Yeah.
can't do that when you're at the automated checkout aisle in the grocery store,
Mm.
because one is totally based on a gear shifter, which is in your hand, a foot pedal where you're controlling things with your feet, and glanceability. And the other one, the machine causes you to push the exact button on the screen in order to do the thing.
Mm.
And so how things were built in the past in a lot of cases is something that we could learn from when we try to make future systems. And I'm working now with people who are doing home automation systems for houses, for commercial companies, for luxury installs, for hotels. And the first thing that someone does when they get into their hotel room is they might want to set their temperature, but mostly they just want that stupid TV to go off. They want some lighting that's not
Mm.
annoying, but have physical buttons where you can just press a button and set it, right? Not and the
But
complicated way to solve it.
why do you need physical buttons? I mean, so if I walk into a hotel room and it recognizes me already and does everything for me, why do you need
That's
physical buttons?
exactly what I was going to say, is that most
Yeah.
people would assume that it's better if the hotel already knows everything you need and just sets you
Yeah.
the temperature and the Kelvin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's annoying. It's annoying to have
No,
to.
it's not
So
annoying for me. I have to say, I
how do
mean,
you tell
when
the
I walk into a
hotel? How
hotel
do you
room,
tell every single hotel chain? Think of it. You've probably been to 30 or
well, I
100
mean,
different hotel
no,
chains in your
no,
life.
it's a
So are you
different
going to
thought
set?
experiment.
Yes, but it's a thought
It's a different
experiment.
thought
It's an
experiment.
ideal. The question is, in real life, how do you tell every single hotel? Is there some profile you can complete online that says what you want? What type of lighting do you want? What type of all of those hotel systems, there's no uniform structure for those hotel systems. They all have different lights. They don't have the same systems. They don't have the same automation control systems. So it would only work at best for one or two hotel chains. The rest of them, you still have to fumble around for light switches and find where everything is. The whole point of a physical button with a couple of different raised dots on it is that you barely have to think. You touch the wall and you're done.
So it's not every hotel systems. So suppose I use only one hotel system and I've
Which most
used
people
it for
don't.
like, no, I used it for 5,000 times, let's
Yeah,
say. That hotel system knows me pretty well.
kind of.
So I would be good. I would be really good when I walk
if
in and
if you were
everything is going.
a
Yeah.
Marriott Bonvoy member, and in the app you could set your preferences for that one hotel chain, and that's the one that you're going to use around the world because that's the job that you're in. That would be really a great relief. For the general traveler who's going to go to a variety of hotels or doesn't travel that often, just
Okay.
having physical buttons is a thing. So when I'm talking about like you're a special case in that you might travel a lot and you might have the same hotel, what a relief, right? And that's offered to the 1% of the 1% of the super heavy travelers. Like, you know, now for the rest of the world, for everybody who's doing boutique hotels and all this stuff, it's just, I want to know where the buttons are. Let me press them. So the best hotel design I saw is in two places. One in Japan again, where you have your three switches on the wall, where it's just your bright light overhead, your mood light, and your quiet light. And there's like little nice, low light around your bed so you don't
Yeah.
stumble when you wake up in the middle of the night. A temperature that goes up a degree or down a degree, and then it lights off, and that's it. And
Yeah.
so,
So fail safe is always good. Um, so that I think that's what you're talking about. So I just want to finish up with we're running out of time. The history and future of calm technology. You say here we already live in an era of connected devices. We just don't think about them that way. We don't often read articles on washing machines or go to conferences on them, but these devices are there. They're powered by the first ubiquitous technology, electricity. This technology has been made invisible in our environment. So we see only the effects it has in enabling other technology to function. I quite like that. So I would love technology that's invisible. Any technology that is really sort of visible, ask me to press buttons or do something, it's not good technology, I would say. So, so of the 300 devices I have in my home, none of them requires me to press anything. So I walk into a room, lights come on, um, heat is set to my level.
So you have a heat pump
Uh,
that that does its own individual room control system.
each individual control system. So yeah, I don't like pressing buttons. I just hate it. We have this technology now, right? I mean, we have this technology that would make people live like they used to live. I mean, in the cave, arguably, there was no light, there's no electricity.
Plenty of
But
light in the
then,
cave. You have a fire, but it's not good for your lungs.
but now we have light, we have electricity, and we have powered things in the home. Why do we have to go around and pressing buttons? I mean, this is such a crazy notion for humans. What do you think?
Well, I don't really press a lot of buttons. I use my feet to stomp on stuff, right? So this light is a foot press, and it
Even
is
better,
fun to step on it, right?
but you
I
still have to
think we
step on it.
I lost the foot. I don't want it on all the time. I want to decide when it's on. That's my thing. For a given day, my life is not the same day every day. Some days
Yeah,
I want the light off, some days I
yeah.
want the light on. But I don't want it to automatically do anything for me, and I don't want it to automatically turn off after 15 minutes if I haven't moved because I might be watching a movie. I might be
Mm.
engrossed in a scene, right? So this is a big argument. I was really in your camp for a long time, and then I was giving
Yeah.
a speech, and in the middle of the speech, Don Norman, the former VP of Apple, jumped up and just gave me every counterexample possible because I was
Yeah.
making a home automation system that automatically detected when your phone attached to the Wi-Fi network, and it would turn all on all the lights in the house, wait 10 minutes, and then the little robotic voice would say, "Hello, I haven't seen you since 7 hours ago." And
Yeah.
it would have all the things, and it was very cute. And it was also cool because you could tell when someone came home because it would be like, oh, this person's home, like no surprises. um, on the other
What's
hand,
wrong with that?
because there are edge cases that if you're a very
Yeah.
consistent person, that's great, but the edge cases are really annoying. And when you have control over it and an override, it's
Mm.
delightful. So
Okay.
I have a sensor. I have lots of sensors around here, right? I certify products for a living, right? Like we've certified 22 Calm Tech products.
Yeah.
Um, but the most important thing for me is that it might be invisible most of the time and that you don't notice it. But when you need to override it, it's very easy to override it. And I think that's an important thing is that it's visible what's going on, whether that's a foot press or whatever. You can have a trash can that as you go by automatically opens at you, right? Because you got close to the trash can. Don't you want it to open for you? Oh, what if it opens every single time and it smells really bad? You don't want that trash can to open. Oh no. But just having a foot pedal, let's say it runs out of batteries, that automatic opener and that signaler, great.
Mm.
Well, you can just push it. But what if you have a party and every single time there's 30 people in the house, every single time somebody walks by, it opens, right? So it's
That
really
sounds like an
about
edge case, though.
that sounds like a party, which happens. So
An
there's
edge
this.
case. I mean, I don't have 30 people in my home
Exactly. So
for a
for
party.
your case, this
Yeah.
is great. You've had it all set up. When you
Do
think
you think
about,
having 30 people in your house is not an edge case?
well, I live very differently. I like to have lots of people
Oh, okay.
over.
All
For
right.
for me, a house is like entertainment central and like conferences and salons and so it's a very different thing of like if I'm having guests, I don't want to train them up on my system. Like I went to a friend's house and he
Yeah.
said, okay, I'm going to give you access to everything in the house, please download this app. Okay, I downloaded the app, now put your thumbprint in. Okay, now I have access to everything in my house. Okay, great. So what's the permissioning system? Well, I can get in the door, but then my phone ran out of batteries because I
Mm.
got back at 3 in the morning. Oh no, right? Like, can I just have a backup key? Right? Like, can I have
You
can
don't
I have a
do that.
card?
I mean,
Right? Can I
yeah.
have a little touch card like a hotel? Right? Like, so it required me to be in an optimal state of bringing my own charger and all of these things, but really
Hmm.
I just wanted to press a button to turn off the lamp at night. Because when I'm really tired, there's different kinds of buttons. When I'm really tired, I want to press a button like that. I don't want to load a thing, authenticate in, get my two-factor off, and then decide to turn off the light. I'll just go around the cabinet and I'll unplug it. And actually, when I'm in a lot of hotels that are like, we're a smart hotel, I just unplug everything. Because I
Hmm.
get really mad because they do it wrong. So I think,
What
it's
if they do it
really,
right?
then it's
What if they
awesome
do it
and
right?
you don't notice it, but very few people do it right, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. So the guidelines for doing things right are part of what part of what I've written about in the book, which
Hmm.
is, technology should take the least amount of attention and only when necessary. It should engage your peripheral attention so you don't have to focus all of your attention on it. It should
Yeah.
work even when it fails, like an escalator turns into stairs when it breaks, and you can still use it. It shouldn't be a bright, blinding blue light when you're trying to go to sleep. It could be something like
Oh, sure.
orange.
Yeah. For sure.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't make extremely loud noises like a fridge or a really loud laundry machine when it's done. And the material design should be nice to touch and nice to look at so that it doesn't look like an alien spaceship of plastic has descended on your home. It's part
Hmm.
of the materiality. And even in
That's the part.
Victorian times.
That's the
Yeah.
part I don't understand. I don't want to touch anything. So I want my machine to understand me. And when I walk into a room, it does everything for me. I don't want to turn on stuff, turn off stuff, touch stuff. Um, I think that's archaic. I mean, we have so much technology now that none of these things need to be there anymore. I mean,
We
I'm
do,
almost
but
there actually in my home. Yeah.
so if the neuroscience of what happens when you touch something nice is actually really good for the mind. So instead of some terrible plastic switch, if you had some old Victorian switch, it's actually really good for your mind. It's actually the mind needs that kind of stimulus. And so if you don't have that in your environment and you're not touching anything, it's there's a deficit, right? So like for instance, you have to button buttons, you're putting on clothes. Would you like a robot to do that? We're going all the way back to the servant thing.
No, 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 no.
I've
Now we're
stayed in
going.
these, right? Now I'm going
So
too
when I
far.
walk
So we're
into my
looking at the,
office, the
yeah.
lights come on, the temperature is set properly. I don't want to touch any switches to do that. Whether the robot is going to dress you up is a completely different thing.
Exactly, but I
So we
brought
are
it up
talking
as
about
like,
two
how
different things.
far does
Yeah,
the automation go? Right?
yeah. You
Because
you
for
you
for
let
a
it go.
house, it's very different, right?
Yeah, you let it go wherever you want it to go, right? So for
Yeah.
me, I don't want to touch any switches. I get no utility from it. I want the house to understand my patterns and set things for me. Um, I don't have a robot in my house that dresses me up. I mean, it's such of a
There's a new one
doesn't
that
make
that
any sense. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
actually just a human remote controlling the robot that does people's laundry now, you know? So
Mm.
but that's the thing, it's like you're more about the decentralized autonomous system in your home where you shouldn't have to think about your environment at all. It should just be set.
Yes.
And that's where you sit, and that works out super well.
Yeah.
And for
It does.
me,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I want particulate content to go down, and I just want a really efficient HVAC system where there's low CO2 because I know that high CO2 affects people's thinking. So that's what I want. I want plenty
Why,
of natural light.
why do you think CO2 cannot be measured properly?
Oh, I have a measurement.
Yeah. It's not working.
It's working great, but
So why? Yeah.
this is not connected to an automated HVAC system
Why not?
because it's not like in Norway. I wouldn't have to connect it to an automated HVAC system if I had an HVAC system that was already installed well to a standard that does 5 cycles of air per hour. Because at that point, if it were designed well to begin with, I
Yeah.
wouldn't even have I wouldn't even have to have software that controls it. I just know that it's doing a good job.
You just
So
need to change your HVAC system. Sounds
yeah,
like.
just change the whole HVAC system.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that,
maybe not what was expected of our call today, but I did really enjoy the directions that it went.
no, I really enjoyed your book. I mean, it is really interesting. I mean, a lot of people spend so much time on technology. They look at their phone all day and, look at everything. I'm with you. I would love technology to be completely in the background. So when I walk into a room, the room sets the right things for me. When I go to sleep, the bedroom sets the right thing for me. I want technology to completely disappear. I think that is sort of what you're saying, right? In some ways.
Yeah, but I want the information to be in my space more, actually. So, for
Hmm.
instance, like I would like to have a podcast with you that isn't me sitting down in a chair looking at a laptop. I want it to just be me in my living room and I can just talk with you on a screen. I don't
Yeah.
have to be in an office for it. And also, I want to be able to if I'm on my computer, kind of see what other people are doing in my organization. Like I kind of want
Hmm.
to see like I want to understand whether people are busy or free, whether I can call them or not, and like there's lots of different things.
No, that is sort of
It's
privacy. I mean, you talk about this in your book. I mean, there are sort of privacy issues.
yeah.
We cannot know what other people are doing. I mean, that is
You're
that
not
is
supposed to
yeah.
see, but you can
Yeah.
get a color, right? You can get a color if someone's busy.
Even that is a privacy issue as well, I would
So I
think.
share my location with my friends, right? So there's about
Yeah.
8 of us.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if you choose to do it,
we've
it's a
not,
different thing. Yeah.
yeah, we're not doing it with everybody. But the
Yeah.
idea is that I know if my friend is at his friend's house, I'm not going to call him. But if he's at home, I can call him. Or if he's
Yeah.
at another country, I can say, hey, take a photo. I want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
They're always surprising me. They're all over the place. It's
Yeah.
very different, right? To have a color or probability of something than the
Hmm.
actual information.
I see.
So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
privacy preserving information sharing to those you've opted into in your own social network, in your own personal place. And that's very interesting, right? So some of the
So
papers
this
that
this
Mark
goes
Weiser and
into sort of cognitive load
correct.
reduction issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
the path that I'm on in my home. Um, I am on a path that I don't have to do anything in the
Mhm.
house. Every room knows me. Every room does what I want to do. You're sort of on the same path, I think, right? So, I mean, I don't have too many friends like you do. So it's a different situation, but yeah,
My life is super, super social. And so actually a lot of the spaces that I'm in
yeah,
have some tech behind the scenes, but actually the co-working space I'm a part of, we have an actual like time ticker machine that we punch in with old-fashioned punch cards
okay,
from like the 40s. And we punch in and we punch out, and then actually someone takes that and data visualizes it.
yeah,
And we have a Discord channel, but all of it's in real life activities, so we can all hang out with each other. And we have different things that we do, and that helps because a lot of us have computer shaped jobs.
hmm,
And, I'm with you. I don't want to press buttons, but I want to press different buttons. I want to press foot stompers and all sorts of stuff. Most of the stuff
hmm,
in that space is pretty analog, you
okay,
know, and, but, for the things that make sense, I would like in Norway to have
hmm,
much better CO2
yeah,
system inside. And I actually built a house that or like a little tiny home that basically was like a spaceship. So
yeah,
if you think about forest fires in the future and all of these things, like
hmm,
what your house is going to need to do for you
yeah,
beyond just turning on and off the lights and changing your humidity is going to be quite severe. And large commercial buildings automatically do this. They have to, because it's very expensive to spend that energy. So I started to get really interested in, where do you put the sensors? How do you give them power? You can actually put them in the light sockets. And then how do they detect, occupancy presence is not about actually looking at people through video cameras. That's extremely expensive and privacy issue. You just look at CO2. The CO2 is high, run the HVAC a little stronger. There's no privacy violation involved, right? So it's these little tiny indicators of what happens, and then you do something based on that.
Yeah.
That to me is quite nice. But I think we've gone over the time. So
Excellent. Yeah, this has been great, Amber. So I'll put this together and I'll send you the details. So let me stop the recording.